Look at this colonial street scene in 1932 Calcutta. If you buy a strange, unopenable copper box from a dusty curio shop here, every horror movie rule says you leave it alone. Vivek, however, ignores that instinct. He takes the box home. When he gets the box back to his workshop and finds the lid seized, he doesn't perform a ritual. He treats it like a mechanical problem. Securing the box in a heavy vise, he figures out the lid isn't held by magic. It's just reverse threaded. Inside, he finds a braid of hair. He applies chemistry, stripping the grime with acid and ether. Drying it, he pins the hair to a cardboard scrap, unknowingly driving the pins straight through his friend Samarjeet's face on a photograph glued behind it. At the exact moment Vivek pushes that pin down, Samarjeet collapses on the floor of his own home. He regains consciousness completely disoriented, with a severe, semicircular bruise blooming in the center of his forehead, a physical match to the pinprick. When Vivek puts the timeline together, he recognizes exactly what he has in his hands. He has accidentally uncovered a physical mechanism for untraceable, long-distance harm, driven by a highly reliable input-output system. You would expect guilt here, or at least a healthy amount of fear. Vivek feels neither. His friend's injury simply provides him with a compelling data point. He decides to test this phenomenon to see if it acts like a consistent physical law. For his first deliberate trial, he targets his neighbor's nanny, a woman he often observes acting cruelly toward the child in her care. He intends to test the artifact for maximum lethality. He secretly snaps a photograph of her from his window. He sets up his variables: the artifact, the target's image, and lethal force, driving 2 pins into her picture. The next morning, the nanny dies of a hemorrhage, but the coroner is baffled by 2 unexplainable red marks on her brow. Lethality confirmed. But a scientist needs to understand scale. Vivek selects a second target, a man across the street whose late-night violin playing annoys him. This time, it's a dosage test. He wants to know if he can modulate the pain without causing death. He waits until the musician starts playing and then lightly brushes the braided hair against the man's photograph. Across the street, the man immediately drops his violin, gasping and clutching his throat as if suffocating, only recovering when Vivek pulls the hair away. The tests are a complete success. Vivek proves that supernatural power, stripped of its folklore, is just a tool. It can be calibrated, measured, and controlled with terrifying precision. With the physics of the artifact mapped out, Vivek transitions from research to monetization. He brings his operation here, to the local racecourse. His strategy is remarkably simple. He collects photos of fast racehorses and bets on the underdog. Right as the race begins, he gently runs the cursed hair over the photos of the leading horses, inducing a sudden, crippling fatigue that guarantees his chosen horse crosses the finish line first. The money creates a new, dangerous insulation. Vivek stops recording data and starts buying influence. The disciplined scientist who once measured ether by the milliliter is replaced by a man who measures his success by the bottle, descending into a heavy, daily dependence on expensive imports and whiskey. His wife, Sumita, watches this decay in real time. She becomes the lone voice of reason in his house, desperately begging him to put the liquor down and step back from whatever obsession has hollowed out the man she married. Vivek's rationality had given him perfect operational control over the braid. He knew exactly how to use it. But that same cold scientific detachment completely stripped him of the empathy required to wield it safely. The inevitable boiling point arrives late one night. Drunk, furious, and unwilling to let anyone challenge his authority, Vivek decides to show his wife exactly who she is dealing with. He grabs her photograph, pulls out the hair, and strikes it. He only intended to cause enough pain to terrify her into silence. But Sumita had a weak heart. The sudden, supernatural shock to her system is too much, and the resulting heart attack kills her on the spot. This entire sequence of events, the tests, the races, the murder, survives only because Vivek writes it all down. Overcome by hallucinations of his dead wife and crippling guilt, he pens a frantic confession letter to his friend Ashish. By the time Ashish receives the letter and forces his way into the house, the experiment is already over. He finds Vivek dead on his bed. Beside him rests his own portrait, a single pin driven straight through the center.
anchored by the ancient braid.
Adresh Bardin's Chool demonstrates that while intellect can map the mechanics of cower, it cannot provide the restraint needed to handle it. Vivek's logic functioned perfectly until he turned it on himself.